it's been about 10 minutes since you had your Tesla Energy Light session. What's going on?
I'm finding it easier to let go of thoughts. That's something I was just noticing. I'm feeling very strengthened. I feel myself much more. At the same time as I feel groundedness much more, I feel the movement of energy through me, communicating with the air around me also.
Thank you.
There you are.
I feel like that. That's exactly, that's how I feel.
So now we are going to capture the second part of data after dear Lucy had all her wonderful activity with the Tesla lights that dear Aaron had instituted. Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay.
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 Okay. Okay. Sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So now we have cumulative data compiled over here for Lucy, and now we are going to have all the strains of information, all the fields of data rather. So I just want to share one we are going to look at the baseline readings without the filter when we started. So let's look at fingerprint imaging over here, and now let's look at the fingers without the filter after. And what do we observe here? We can see that information exchange across the system has certainly increased, because we can see that there is much more of exchange of data across each and every one of the fingertips. Let's go, and now we will calculate. So now we will get a compiling of all data. I know when we look at this chart, now we have lots of lines, lots of colors, lots of numbers. Now let's strain them out so that we can see precise activity. So first step I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the one with the filter so that we can see specifically what the parasympathetic field has, how the parasympathetic field has responded after the Tesla's light process. So just to recap, here was the baseline, and the baseline reading was 0.73, 0.59 between the two, which is the red line, and in the left-right brain correlation was 0.37 to 0.67. Then after the treatment, so now it is about 15 minutes after, you can see that certainly both the fields of information has certainly expanded, and it is expanded to bringing these two values, which is 1.13 and 1.10, almost to be quite stable on both sides. And most important observation here is we see that in parenthesis is 0.33 and 0.38. So this big spike has now been completely, as we can see in the configuration of the green. Let's highlight that. Well, that's the best color we can get. It certainly has tremendous contribution. The stress index value, which was 4.86, roughly is now to 3.85. That shows that there has been a guidance system that has less anxiousness, which what dear Lucy had in the system. So now it is bringing these fields into much more of a unified collaboration between the right and left hemispheres. Okay, now let's look at how the data of the filter shows. So now we look at the the blue, and we can see the blue value 1.29, 1.21, and the brown is after 1.8 and 1.49. So of course certainly what the whole system has been stimulated. So the physical field has been highly stimulated, because of course we must pay attention that this is also activity of how informational exchange is now recalibrated inside the field. So we have only done this now 15 minutes after the here. So that's about the time we would wait, because now, but on one level it shows that the system is really very strong, because it has raised the capacity, but more importantly it has expanded the system. So now with that expansion of system and harnessing the parasympathetic field together, so let's look at one chart here. Let's look at one chart over here to integral parameters, and now we can compare integral parameters of both. This is the integral area. Let's look at integral entropy, where in the beginning here was the level of entropy here, 1.5, 1.45. So entropy was raised, and this is without the filter. So there is more exchange of data, and the activation coefficient has certainly, so the stress index, which was 4.63, that is already in the beige area, which is now, which we had discussed, now is back to green. It also reflects that the system, your whole parasympathetic field, is now much more relaxed, or aligning towards relaxation. How would you see it?
Yeah, aligning towards. I feel more relaxed, and I feel a lot of shifting happening. So it hasn't settled yet, I guess. Is what it feels like.
Then if we let's look at the cumulative data here of integral without filter, and now let's look at data with the filter. So when we look at data with the filter, let's look at the cumulative entropy. Entropy in the beginning was 2.14, all in the beige area, which is hyperfunction. So it has dropped it to 2.03, which is, let's say, we use a relationship of a 10% plus or minus. So there is very slight, but again, we are looking at even that slight is the process of absorption into the system, process of absorption. And we saw the activation coefficient. So now let's go to other programs of energy field. Let's look at, and now we have here, okay, we can see in the beginning was 81%, it went to 90%. From 18,000 in area, which is the number of pixels, it increased to 27,000. But what we are observing here is that most of the areas are beginning to fill out. So what we call energetic depletion, predominantly area like the thyroid area, we can see that very same thyroid area is now filled. Areas that relate to the nervous system, so this is immune system functions, and immune system functions, cardiovascular is enhanced. In the in the physical field, the sympathetic field, we can see that there are some spikes going out, etc. And we see where these spikes are in the lower areas have been smoothened out. And overall picture, when we look at the distribution of energy in the sympathetic field, has certainly also enhanced when we look at the frontal view. So let's look at the view on the right hand side. And here from 21,000 in area, it has increased to 29,000. So this is significant because it's greater than the 10% value. Plus at the same time, it is also filling out areas that are depleted. And this is interesting point because Aaron, when he was conveying to you about some of the applications, Aaron referred to that when there are areas that are depleted, these areas will get fortified. Isn't that what you had said?
Right.
So that fortification of information is what we are observing. That it is quite clear, but I think we can take it to one more point. We can see the jaggedness of the edges here in the sympathetic field. These jaggedness of the edges are smoothening.
There's definitely more consistency.
So there is much more, especially in area here when we look at the lower, the coccyx pelvis area.
My sacrum, I mean, in that, I felt the lower...
The sacral part of the spine?
And shift. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And when I was sitting up, one more popped. Something popped. I don't know what.
Well, it's again ion exchange, data of ion exchange in the system. And then we look at left side from 21,600 to 28,000. And of course, this is very significant in terms of its the response of the energy field to such stimulation, ion stimulation. And we can see again from 30,800 to 35,000. So that is also more than 10% value. But important point to note over here that this bulb that was there by the head in the beginning is being filled. And all this in the lower back that we see, all across in the lower back area, is that which is a disturbed space has been now filled. Which is what you just shared, that you...
that was where most of the shifts were occurring. There were some in my upper back and head, but mostly...
So let's look at these charts and see exactly in terms of the symmetry of area. Symmetry at the sympathetic field, which is the green and the purple, they have pretty much stayed at the same percentage value. The parasympathetic field, symmetry from 81% to 90%. So that is also very strong. We look at area comparisons that we saw on the chart, and we can see that the gulf of information between here has begun to stabilize, or guiding one more towards a coherence. So if we use that word, the word coherence is the organization of not only our parasympathetic, sympathetic fields, so that they are synchronously aligned.
They're more balanced.
Yes, yes. So now let's have a exploration with chakras. And so now we have data on chakras. So here, now this is very significant what we are looking at because let's look directly without filter. Here was the baseline. And we can see that they were strong, but one of chakra number 2 was really displaced. And there was some emotional shifts, etc. And then after the treatment, we can see definitely that there is tremendous strengthening of the whole system. How do you see it?
Bigger and more centered. And, I mean, that even reminded me of how I felt before, which was like, kind of like this, whereas I feel this more centered now. And it seems very accurate.
Okay.
Can you do a focus on the heart chakra?
Yes.
Are there any significant aspects that would depict?
Okay. Let's look at the baseline. We can see that number one, the heart chakra is quite close to the center, but slightly smaller. And this again, the reference was that this lovely being, dear Lucy, comes already from very strong loving nature. Very strong loving nature, that's already there. And after, you can see that the size of the heart center shifted from a little bit on the emotional side to a presence, much more to a strength, so a position of strength. So which then in turn, and this is a very important point because we are doing tremendous studies across the world with some very top level people who are what dear Bill Tiller, Dr. Bill Tiller makes reference to transformation of thermodynamic free energy of spaces, thereby potentializing the plasma of environments, which in turn correlates to the heart center, which is the Anahata chakra. So the strengthening of the Anahata chakra, what are the attributes from here? And we see that the attributes is that it raises the harmonic not only of the crown chakra, but also aligns the root. So the communication, line of communication between the crown, the root is enhanced by the strength of the heart. So we know from deep observation, not only from inspired beings like Nicholas Roerich, all the yogis, and we can go on and on, that when we awaken the heart, we awaken the dormant soul. And when we awaken the dormant soul, then our higher purpose, our clear purpose to our life is the navigational path is outlined through our discipline practices, and our discipline practices enhances the vision. So feed lines coming in from the universe of intelligence that is continuous in every breath, and providing a root that is strong, that is present. So hence, when we have a clear, strong root going through the heart that is as wide awake, then our chakras begin to reverberate, which is what dear Bill Tiller in a recent publication of his called Psychoenergetic Science, the next Copernican scale revolution. And in this text which he has published, which is going to be as a textbook for high school students, undergraduate students, and reference for masters and doctoral students, is very clear analogy that when our acupuncture centers, acupuncture meridians and our chakra center are in harmonic, we are in dynamical field of communication with the intelligence to which we are fully here to. I mean, that's as simple as it can be said, isn't it? So we can see that it's certainly here. So maybe the university should bring this together too as the next stage of instrumentation. Again, these are all explorations. These are tremendous explorations. So now let's look at with filter, how it is with the filter. So we can see that here was the baseline reading without the filter, which is the sympathetic field. All are strong, all are within the bandwidth. But there are some activity going on because and now we look at data without, after the treatment, and we can see on one hand that there is a response. Again, the crown is there, the heart again is right, it has been brought stronger to the center, so is the throat, so is the third eye, the Ajna chakra. We see that there is one shift in the solar plexus. So that solar plexus is again calibration of information, recalibration. The second chakra you see is strong, and so is the root chakra. And this is again, and maybe that could be a reference point of, let's go to this figure, because this is how we would then begin to look at informational sequence of we see here. So this is all like the solar plexus area. And here we look at this spike going out. Now let's blow it up a little more. And when we look at that little spike going out, that's a lot of informational energy passing through. Yes, Aaron did convey to you to set certain clear intentions into the field and what you seek to exhume from the system.
There's a factor here that I'd like to bring to you. The lights have been known to have an integration time. Remember we said you're going to be feeling this today, tonight, tomorrow. Well, it's like a time capsule. It continues to feed you energy from your subtle energy bodies.
Right.
So it's very conceivable that this is a snapshot in level of progression as to where it's going. What you're seeing is the first level, the first response. Because as it peaks up, then it will come back down until the next session. That's the way the lights work. So in essence, if you were to get another reading, you'd find a shift in the same direction that you just found.
So in the collective conclusion, we can see that the outer world can have perfection only when the inner world inspires, guides, molds, and shapes the outer world. So when we direct our inner state to that response, then our outer world begins to transmit this data. And of course we know that the intelligence that lies within the cells is very, very clear. This is the work of dear Dr. Bruce Lipton, and of course it goes to wonderful researchers and Nobel laureates like Albert St. Georgi, Alexander Gurvich, also Dr. Fritz Albert Popp at the Max Planck. So everything that is supportive is, we can see, is definitely defined in the chakra field. So now when we come to this chart here, and we look at the diagram field, and we can see that the collective of the whole diagram field has been supportive to dear Lucy in strengthening the distribution of energy through her all the organ systems. And as this in turn strengthens, which is again a response over time, as you had conveyed, Aaron. And this response over time, I would suggest over here, when you imprint now thoughtful process, given the dynamics of what you are going to be undertaking over the coming week, then it strengthens, and we know that capacity of our thought can also transmute any other disturbances. So then so a suggestion, just looking at the data, is the stimulus of ion activity that has fostered inside the system can be supported by a thought construct that resonates to higher level of one's inner integration. Okay. So we thank you. We thank you. And now we celebrate dear Tesla's life.
Yeah.
Ah.